From CNN, Bill Barr directs federal government to reinstate death penalty, schedule the execution of 5 death row inmates. And I am going to say no as loud as I can. This is the one issue that I hold more truly than any other issue, period. There's a lot of issues, minimum wage, right? Where I can we'll have an argument about it and I'm kind of like, man, I kind of feel like this. Death penalty? Nothing will ever get me to support execution by the state for so many reasons. We're going to read the story, but we're going to start with some philosophy. And here's what I want you to do. And this is what, I thought about when I was younger and said, we cannot have this. I want you to imagine right now, you are in a room. You can't move. It's dark. There's no windows. You're in jail. You're in prison. And 2 men come up and you take you out of the room and they tell you, you are now going to die. What your existence is, your thoughts, your life, your passion, your knowledge will cease to exist because we've deemed it so. There's no chance of escape. It doesn't matter if you're innocent or guilty. You are going to die. Then I want to imagine them strapping you down to the table, laying there in the cold with the white bright lights, as they tell you now, we are going to inject you with a chemical to end your life. I want you to really, really think about what that would mean. We don't know what is beyond life. We don't. Some people have faith, but faith isn't knowledge. It's a belief that something will be true, not knowledge that it is. So there's a lot of people, I think, that might say, you know what? These people forfeited their lives by doing something. No. Stop. I don't care. I don't think that even no matter how vile someone may be, no matter how deranged, actually, I take that back. There are very, I'm not an absolutist. I recognize there are exceptions to these things. But I think in almost all circumstances, if you have successfully restrained and detained and stopped the threat, to then decide the state can come in and take away what is the most important thing in existence, life. I will not accept that. And this puts me at odds. Yes, I understand with pro-life and pro-choice. It is a very disturbing and difficult ethical conundrum. I totally understand that. But when it comes to the death penalty, straight up, you will never get me to agree to that. The choice thing is complicated because it comes to 2 different entities and it comes to state enforcement. And it is always about the state imposing their will on your life. And I will never be for that. And when it comes to the state deciding you will die, I will never be for that. So maybe you don't agree. Comment below if you're on YouTube and let me know you don't agree. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just letting you know that this is the hill I will die on. I won't budge from this. I have read philosophy, I have sat down, I have meditated on the issue, and I have thought about it, and this is one of the strongest positions I will ever take. So I will say unequivocally, I oppose Bill Barr, Donald Trump, the Trump administration in reinstating death penalties at the federal level and ordering the execution of these inmates. Beyond all of that, I will defer to Blackstone's formulation that it is better that 10 guilty persons escape than 1 innocent suffer, and the potential in any capacity for the state to end the life of an innocent person, to me, is shocking, amoral, wrong, and should be stopped at all costs. I will never be happy and okay with my resources, my life, my work being given to the state, in some capacity, taxes, so that they can decide they have the authority to take life away from somebody else. Sorry, it's never going to happen. I would love to have a conversation to expand on this and other ideas, including how this pertains to choice in life. I understand it is an ethical conundrum of which there is no easy answer, but I always defer to the state. I defer away from allowing the state to have the authority to dictate an individual's life or take it away. The state authority. That's why the choice life thing is complicated for me. I don't know the answers. I don't. This is just my personal, moral, and philosophical position. And this story to me was, I don't know, man. This is the kind of stuff that makes me angry and freaks me out. But let's read the news now that you've listened to me rant about how I feel about the death penalty. CNN reports, let's zoom in real quick. The federal government has ordered the death penalty to be reinstated for the first time in nearly 2 decades. As Attorney General William Barr directed the Bureau of Prisons to schedule the execution of 5 inmates after adopting an updated execution protocol. After 16 years without an execution, Barr has directed the head of the Bureau of Prisons to execute 5 death row inmates convicted of murdering, and in some cases, torturing and raping the most vulnerable in our society, children and the elderly. in December and January, according to a statement from the Department of Justice. Quote, "The Justice Department upholds the rule of law, and we owe it to the victims and their families to carry forward the sentence imposed by our justice system." Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is not justice. This is not rehabilitation. This is simply emotional retribution. I do not have any sympathy for these men who have committed the worst crimes imaginable. But I'm also terrified of the prospect of the state being given the ability to enforce whether you are allowed to live or die. And the fact is the government can be wrong. It has been wrong. We can condemn all of these people. They've been judged by a jury of their peers, by a judge, etc. But in the end, I just can't see it. I cannot see us being able to restrain and detain an individual who can never commit harm again, and us deciding you should no longer be allowed to have life. That to me is shocking. I can't get past it. The move represents a dramatic reversal after more than a decade-long hiatus in the federal use of capital punishment, as President Donald Trump has taken on the issue and called to bring back the death penalty. The death penalty is legal in 29 states, and the federal government, though there have been no federal executions in nearly 2 decades, and the number of people facing state executions has been on the decline. The debate over capital punishment has been long-standing, with advocates arguing it's a deterrent against serious crime and that justice is served for the victims or victims' families. It's not. It won't bring back. It won't do anything. I don't want to rant on this. Opponents, however, point to the racial disparities of death row inmates, the financial costs, and wrongful convictions. Look, I understand you want to talk about racial disparities, whatever, financial costs. I just can't imagine being that person, no matter what you've done, no matter what. You are under the control of the state. Okay, they have you. You can't hurt anybody. Don't let them out. But I understand it costs money. I do. But just because we can't afford the burden, we want to end someone's life, I can't see it. And I really do implore you to imagine it is you sitting on that cold table as people stare at you, knowing that you will cease to exist. I can't imagine what non-existence would feel like. I can't imagine anyone determining they have the right to take that away from you. I can't do it. I just cannot see it. They say at Barr's discretion, the Bureau of Prisons has adopted the Federal Execution Protocol Addendum, which, quote, replaces the 3-drug procedure previously used in federal executions with a single drug, pentobarbital, the Justice Department announced. Thursday's announcement by DOJ to schedule the executions of 5 death row inmates follows an effort begun by former Attorney General Jeff Sessions for the federal government to restart executions by lethal injection. They just go into detail. I don't think we need to go into overt detail, but let's read more about the prisons. A Federal Bureau of Prisons spokeswoman told CNN that per statute, the director of the BOP designates the date and time for an execution. BOP will continue with planning and administrative steps to ensure the execution is ready to commence on the designated date and time. An official from the federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, where each man is scheduled to be executed in the coming months, deferred comment to BOP. There are currently 62 inmates on federal death row, with about the same number of white and black federal death row inmates, according to the Death Penalty Information Center. Capital punishment is legal in 29 states. They said that already. There are about 2,600 death row inmates, with California detaining the most. According to the center, of the 5 men named by Barr Thursday, 3 are white, 1 is black, and 1 is Native American. Only 3 federal inmates have been executed in the United States since the federal death penalty was reinstated in 1988 after a 16-year moratorium. Louis Jones, a Gulf War veteran, was the last federal inmate executed in March 2003 for the kidnapping and murder of 19-year-old Army Private Tracy McBride. There are a lot of challenges when it comes to this, because I know there is still a rational and fair point in terms of how much it costs to detain people. That's one thing I've heard a lot, saying it costs too much money, it's a burden on the taxpayer, and these people committed atrocities. But when I hear that, my question is, should the state end someone's life simply because they don't want to pay to detain them? And I feel the answer is no. And that's not particularly, it's an interesting question of whether it's a liberty or authority question. Is it authoritarian to say that the people of society should be forced to pay for the internment of an individual because we don't want to kill that person? It's a really complicated question. These moral and ethical situations are never easy. They're not. But deep within my core, if you were to ask me to empathize and envision that situation, I would never support that. The state using its authority to end someone's life is the most egregious violation of authority that we could, in my opinion, experience. We grant authority to the state for particular reasons. Common defense is one. I, as a social liberal, do think that we can empower the state for some governmental programs as well, at odds with many classical liberals and libertarians. Fine, but I can't imagine why we would ever elect to empower a state above us that could choose at their discretion, with safeguards I understand, to end our lives. Think about the fake news. Think about how easy it would be for the fake news to smear you and for people to come and try and end your life. That's not the way we do things, no matter how bad of a person you are. You know, I'll add one last thing, in all fairness. It's really easy to have these principles when the crimes are without specifics. You know, I don't know what these men who are on death row were convicted of. I don't know exactly what they did, and I wasn't there to experience it. And I'd have to imagine if I was watching someone commit one of these crimes, I would, if I had to, in the defense of others, end someone's life. I get it. But what about when we've already stopped them? What about when we've already got them locked in a room and they can't leave? Let me know what you think. I don't see myself ever budging on that issue. I really don't. Stick around. I got one more segment coming up for you in just a few moments, and I will see you shortly.